Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 3 of the Blessed Drummer Ornament tutorial. This is the Blessed Drummer Ornament that we are making. It is so cute with its little musical notes and the drums and the crosses. And today we're going to be making the unit called One Note. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those videos listed down below in the description. That way when you finish this one, you can go and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have opaque black, white pearl AB, silver lined gold, silver lined crystal, and bright copper plate. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to call this black, white, gold, silver, and copper. We'll also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire thread in the color crystal, and this is a 4-pound thread. You could also use a 6-pound thread if that's what you like. And then I use a size 10 beading needle. If all you have is an 11 or a 12, that would work too. For implements, I like to hold on to my thread at the end with my long nose pliers, and I cut my thread with scissors. And then I use the fire method to end the tail, and I'm going to show you how to do that in today's video. So let's thread our needle with 3 feet of thread and then we can get started. So I've threaded my needle and now I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads. Let's pick up 3 white beads. Now let's take those 3 beads and pull them down to the bottom of the thread, leaving about a 6-inch tail. And now we can make a square knot. Cross over on the top and pull the tail through. And then cross over on the top again and pull the tail through. So now we have 2 loops. I'm going to put my 2 fingers in the lower loop, the one that has the beads in it, and then I'm going to pull on the tail thread and the long thread until that top loop turns into a knot. Now I'm going to take my tail, and I'm not going to touch it to the flame, but I'm going to get it super duper close so that it melts the tip. And it turns the tip into this teensy little knot. Now, keeping my fingers in the loop, I'm going to pull on the long thread while twisting the loop until that tail knot touches the long thread. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and pull that knot all the way down to the beads. As far down as possible, and it turns the beads into this teensy little triangle, and that completes row number 1. Now if you'll notice, the knot is right in between those 2 beads. So what we're going to do is just tug the long thread to one side so that it now looks like that knot is coming out of one of the beads. And it also looks like the thread is coming out of that bead too. So now let's pick up 2 more white beads. And our thread looks like it's coming out of this bead, so we're going to sew through the one that it doesn't look like it's coming out of. Then we're going to try to get those beads to sit right on top of the beads below them. I call those lower beads, they're buddies. Those are buddy beads. So the new ones are sitting right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up 2 more white beads, and we're coming out of this bead, so we're going to sew through the next bead. And then I'm going to try to get those beads to sit right on top of their buddies again. Now let's pick up 2 more white beads, and we're coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the next. And this time we're also going to sew through the buddy bead. So we're sewing through 2 beads this time. Each time we sew through 2 beads, it means that we're stepping up, putting our thread in position to start the next row. So that completes row number 2, and now we get to start row number 3. Let's start by picking up 2 white beads, and we're going to sew through the next. Now let's pick up 1 white bead, and you'll notice we're coming out of this second bead right here. The third bead looks like it's set downward a little bit. We're going to skip that downward bead, and we're going to sew through the bead that's poking up. I'm going to refer those poking up beads as up beads. So we're skipping the down bead and sewing through the up bead. Now let's pick up 2 black beads and sew through the next. Then we'll pick up 1 white. We're going to skip the down bead and sew through the up bead. Now let's pick up 2 white beads and sew through the next. And now we'll pick up 1 gold bead. We're going to skip the down bead and sew through the up bead and its buddy. So we're sewing through the last 2 beads, and that completes row number 3. Now we get to start row number 4. Let's start with 2 white beads and sew through the next. Then 1 white, sew through the up, 1 black, sew through the up, 2 white beads, sew through the next, 1 white, sew through the up, 1 white, sew through the up, 2 white beads, sew through the next, 1 gold, sew through the up, and 1 gold, and sew through those last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 5. Let's start by adding 2 white beads, then 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 copper, and 1 white. And we'll sew through those last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 1 white and 1 gold. One white, one white, one white, one black, two white beads, one white, one white, one white, one white, two white beads, one silver, one gold, one gold, and one white. Sewing through the last two beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 white beads, one white, one white, one white, one white, one black, two white beads, one white, one gold, one white, one white, one white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 copper, 1 white, and 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 8. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 white, 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 9. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 1 black, 2 white beads, 1 white, 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 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 copper, 1 white, 1 white, and 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 10. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 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 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 white, 1 white, and 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 11. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 black, 1 black, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 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 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 copper, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 12. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 silver, 1 black, 1 white, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 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 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And that completes our 12 rows of our triangle. If this is the first triangle that you're making with me, you'll see that I always cap the ends. And I also add connecting beads on some of the sides. Every unit is different. So in this particular unit, we are not going to have any connection beads on this side, but we are going to have connection beads on this side, and then we're not going to have any on the top. So let's start out by capping this corner with 1 white bead. And it turns the corner into a little point. And now what I like to do is turn my unit over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing up beads without adding any new ones. And I'm going to follow this quadrant line. You'll notice that there's a quadrant line right here. I'm going to just sew up these quadrant line beads, and we're going to end up in this, coming out of this bead right here. That's our goal. So you don't have to sew up the same beads that I do. You can sew up random beads as long as it's 1 bead per row and your thread is hidden completely. That's the goal, really. And then you get up to that top bead. And while we are sewing through these beads, working our way up to the top, this is when I like to do the question of the day. So my question of the day really comes from the fact that I created or designed this particular ornament based on somebody who had asked me to design something that had a drum and a cross in it. And it was a really personal suggestion, and so I put my heart into it, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a cute idea. I also have a musician in my family, so I get it. I totally get it. So my question of the day is, if you could have me design any design that you could possibly think of for an ornament, what would it be? I'd love to hear about all of your different ideas in the comment section. Let me know. And yeah, maybe one day soon you will have an ornament that you had suggested that is being made on my list. So now we are coming out of this corner bead, so, or this top corner. So let's cap it off with 1 white bead. And that turns that corner into a point. And now we are going to add all white beads all the way up this side. So I'm going to call them out for you. 1 white, 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 and 1 white. Now we are up at the top, our last and third corner. So let's cap it with 1 white bead. And now let's just sew up 6 beads without adding any new beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now we're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it. And then we will sew up the bead right next to that one. We're creating this zigzag in our thread because we want to make sure that these last few beads that we added are extra secure. So we don't want them to get loose or anything while we're connecting our units together. So let's now sew up 2 more rows, 1 and 2. And now let's do another zigzag, making this extra secure. So we're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it and up the bead right next to that one. And now let's sew up 2 more rows. And I feel like those last beads that we added are super secure. They're not going to come loose. So now it's time to cut our thread. So let's pick up our thread with our long nose pliers. And then we're going to get the scissors as close to the bead as possible without cutting the bead. Just cut the thread. And that completes our number 3 unit. We only need 5 of these for this project. So go ahead and do this 4 more times and I will see you in a sec. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.